Schweikert for 30 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. When I first got here, there was sort of a joke. There were two ways to get in trouble around here. One was to say something stupid, and one was to tell everyone the truth they don't want to hear. We're going to see if I can get myself in trouble tonight. I've come behind this microphone repeatedly over the last few years trying to do the math. If you're one of the people around this campus, because we're probably right now on 1,000 televisions around this campus, and you actually care about the math, please give me a little bit of your time. I've never done a set of presentation that actually has made my stomach turn more than this. We have spent the last couple weeks with my joint economic economist. I'm blessed to be on the Ways and Means Committee. I chair oversight, but I also am the senior Republican on joint economic, meaning I have some freaky smart people that work for me. And we've been trying to figure out what the math looks like for this nation a decade from now. Remember, we have lots of people who ran this last election saying, we're going to balance the budget in 10 years. Wonderful. Do you understand the math? So we actually sat down and broke apart every document we could find, every projection from CBO. And I care a lot about this. I accept I'm an older dad. My wife and I spent years trying to adopt. We were able to adopt an amazing little girl. She's 7. And we just are in the process of finishing up adopting her brother, who's 7 months old. So yes, my wife and I are 60 years old, and we have a 7-month-old. So we are pathologically optimistic about this country. But please, look at the math I'm about to show you, and then tell me what you are willing to advocate to save my little boy's, my daughter's future, your kid's future, your own retirement. Okay. CBO baseline, Congressional Budget Office baseline. If we just keep doing what we're doing, and there's no recession, there's no war, there's no more pandemic in 2034. So that is 10 budget cycles from right now. The baseline number is we'll be borrowing $2.6 trillion that single year. And it gets worse from there because the next year, Social Security Trust Fund is gone, and we always made the assumption that when it blows up, you're not going to double senior poverty in this country. And this is not a non sequitur. I was just so angry at the president's speech last night on the comments about, promise me you're not going to cut Social Security and Medicare. We're not going to cut Social Security and Medicare, but are you promising you're going to work with us to save it? Where was the discussion saying all the data says in 10 years the trust fund is gone and there's a 23% cut out there? And I'm going to show you at the end of this slide deck that the pandering from my brothers and sisters on the left, just raise the taxes. It doesn't fix the problem. It doesn't even come close. And instead of having a moral discussion from this podium over here saying we're going to not let doubling of senior poverty happen in this country, we're going to work together. It was used for a campaign's kickoff. This number here is the baseline. So for all of us running around saying we're going to balance it in 10 years, great. You have a structural $2.6 trillion on 2034. That's 10 budget years from now. Where are you going to get it? So let's walk through the math even more to understand where we're at in the fragility. Let's say over the next 10 years, there's 1% more interest on what CBO was projecting last year. What was 1% do to us? It basically means on that 2034, that 10-year budget from now, you're sitting at 3.1 trillion structural deficit. That's every year. That's the baseline deficit with just 1 point change in interest rates. You're going to balance in 10 years. I want to balance in 10 years. You find me $3.1 trillion that will be gone in 10 years. Do you understand how bad the math is? But we're going to talk about the shiny objects around here. Oh, there's a balloon. The balloon's a problem. Oh, there's this. It's a problem. This is what will take down the republic. And it's hard to talk about. It's math. And I don't know how to make math necessarily interesting. But it always wins. And we produced this chart, and I know this one's geeky. We basically took all the CBO projections. And we partially stole this from others. So I can't, our economic team can't take all the credit for it. What it's basically telling you is most of the projections, almost all the projections from CBO have been far too optimistic. So when I'm showing you numbers, I'm basing them on the CBO numbers. And oh, by the way, historically, they've been far too optimistic. You get the punchline? Now, the only other caveat I need to give you on the math is because it's going to take 10 days or so to calculate it. We haven't done the interest adjustment, so I'm going to show you on some of these of what would happen if we got rid of this portion of discretionary, if we got rid of all discretionary, got rid of defense, did this. Okay, you have interest savings there. I have not done that calculation yet. And there's a whole other concept I've talked about here, that if we could convince the debt markets here and around the world that buy all this U.S. sovereign debt, that we might get lower interest rates because they realize we're starting to be serious about what the future looks like, and that we're really serious that we are going to have capacity to manage our future debt, that we're going to suppress it, and over time, the growth. Remember, there's two sides to this ledger. We need to find a way to grow like crazy. And we're going to have to discuss things that are uncomfortable. We're going to have to discuss how to fix the immigration system, how to fix the cost of health care, how to do a tax system that is all about growth, a trade system that is about growth, blowing up the bureaucracy in this country using technology. The regulatory state, much of it could be done through technology instead of armies of unionized employees. But we need to almost just be fixated on economic growth. And then we got to tell the truth about our demographics and what drives this debt. So remember my two caveats here. It's going to still take me a couple weeks to do all the interest calculations, but these numbers are pretty darn accurate. So let's sort of walk through it. Let's do some of the budget discussions we're all having. What would happen if I came to you tomorrow and said, hey, we're right now doing the 2024 budget, but we adopted the 2021 baseline. So this means for all discretionary spending, the FBI, the Park Service, the Defense Department, everything, it is government other than the earned entitlements, the mandatory spending. We adopt the 2021 baseline, and we go from there and held constant, the 21 level. That basically means no inflation. So if you had, 2-3% inflation at the end of a